Take us back to Thursday, February 28th, 1992. You were in the Christian publishing world. You're kind of a big deal in the Christian publishing world, Robert.
Well, to my mother, I was.
To your mother. To a lot of other people, too. You represent lots of people as an agent.
Right.
You've written books. You've been in the publishing side of it. But that particular day in February 1992.
It was my 44th birthday. I will never forget it. I had started a business with my buddy, Michael Hyatt, and we had a publishing company, and we had been in business for 5 years, had published about 150 titles, and we had debt. We were carrying debt. Just so you know, the book publishing business is a cash furnace.
It burns it up.
It burns it up. And I got the phone call that every entrepreneur hopes he'll never get. And my note was being called, and it was over. There was absolutely nothing I could do. And so I went into Mike's office. Actually, I sat down on the floor under my desk. I had a table for a desk and cried because that was it. I had leveraged my home, everything. My financial status was zero.
When you say you leveraged your home, how'd that work out?
Well, I had to move.
Oh.
Yeah. I had a car that had a loan, took it back. 2 daughters, one in private high school, one in college, private college. They both came home. It was over.
This is
It's a big
severe
deal.
ground
Absolutely,
zero
absolutely
financially.
big
And it's
deal.
not only you going through this, but it's your wife walking through it with you.
Clearly.
And
And
I
your
love how I've
children.
heard you say that Bobby, and I think your girls really picked this up,
Yeah.
that she didn't berate you, or there was something in her heart that was trusting God to write this story too, hard
Truly.
as it was.
Right. And I never heard her say, well, there you go again, leveraging everything against this, and now what are we going to do? So we listed the house, sold the house, all those things, sold. The girls came home from school. So, yeah, it was a huge challenge. There was a sense in which, even without really knowing what we were doing, the Lord had prepared us for hard times. I mean, the story of an entrepreneur is the story of a person who has to be willing to face this, or he should never go into business, or she should never go into business, because you have no safety net. You're out there doing the backflips off the trapeze, and if you slip and fall, you're toast. It's over. So that's really what we had done, and I mean, but the truth is, and you hear this all the time, people saying, if I had it to do over again, I would do it just like that. Because as Nancy just said, it's in those experiences that you know the grace of God in a way that you wouldn't have known. I don't like this truth. I'd rather if we'd learn this stuff without having to go through the hard stuff. In fact, for the men or football fans that are listening, years ago I walked through the Dallas Cowboys training facility with a guy named Bill Bates, who was like a rocket ship on the field, Tennessee grad, special teams. He was nuts in terms of the way he'd throw his body at it. And so I talked to him about the training, and he said, I'd do it or I'd die on the field. So he worked out 6 days a week, off season, on season, whatever, in order to survive. And it's really interesting. You can choose to work out. You can't choose what's going to happen to you, but you can choose to be ready. And so that's the truth of what we're talking about here. In God's Word, in His presence, talking to others about your love for Him, in prayer, that's the training room. That's the facility that gets you ready for trusting God to write your story when there are twists and turns.
When you say, I wouldn't do it differently, I would accept. In real time, you probably didn't think, wow, this is a great chapter in my story, right? But you're now saying, looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed it. Why? What did you gain from
No,
that?
you're right. This is the box score the following morning. Everything looks great in black and white, but in the moment, I mean, I am sitting under my table in my office crying. And as the days unfolded, other of our team coming into my office without a word, hugging me, crying.
They didn't have jobs now.
That's right.
So
All
you felt the weight of not
unemployment.
only your own family, but the weight of all these other families.
Absolutely right. Yes. So, but then if you'd be able to gather all of us together, this is 25 years ago, and say, now let's talk about what the Lord has done in your life using this experience. I mean, God writes the resume, and you don't know when you're going to need to pull that out, but he doesn't make any mistakes in your resume. And as you grow in your relationship with him, and as you take life a day at a time, you realize those things that you thought were huge impediments or even failures, God uses them for his glory. That's his promise. He will take the things that we experience and he will use them for his glory, whether we like it or not. So it's a very important principle in this whole conversation about trusting God.